In today's video, we uncover the tragic story of Emily Meng. What started as a normal day soon turned into a heartbreaking mystery that haunted investigators for years. The news of this crime was very different from the fact that Denmark has a very low crime rate because people there love nature and peace. The feeling of being warm and cozy when reading a book by a fireplace has its own word in Danish, hygge. This is not the kind of crime that you would expect from the country where Lego was created. Before we get into the full story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life crime stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. And let me know in the comment, which country are you watching from? I want to know how far this case is reaching around the world. Let's get started. Around 1 a.m. on July 10, 2016, Emily Meng and her friends were getting ready for a night out in Slagelse in their basement. They were excited about the start of summer break because they had just finished their first-year tests at Slagelse Gymnasium. They were going to have a good time in the city that night by quickly riding the train from Korsør station to Slagelse. Emily wore tight jeans, blue Puma trainers, and a t-shirt at first, but for the evening she changed into a black, long-sleeved lace top. They finally got a male friend to join, and the group went to Slagelse. They went to the Shisha Cafe for part of the night. Emily, who was also happy and bubbly earlier, seemed to be off task after getting Facebook texts from a boy she was seeing. Her friends said that they had been fighting and that there was doubt in their relationship. This argument had a real effect on her mood. After that, the group went to McDonald's to get some food. Emily and her best friend walked a little behind the others. They were still talking about what happened with the boy who told her he didn't want to keep seeing her. Even though Emily was clearly upset, she and her friends were very nice and well-behaved all night. Never did Emily seem to drink or use drugs. Not that night or in her everyday life. People knew Emily as a vegetarian who really cared about animals. Her friends said she was thoughtful and kind, and she often went to church and sang in the choir. She actually had church at 9:30 a.m. the next morning. The four friends took a train back to Korsør after eating at McDonald's. That's how long the train ride is from Slagelse to Korsør. They sat in the aisle on foldable seats, and one of them called a cab while they were riding. Emily's phone battery was almost dead, so she tried to charge it on the train. Because he lived farther away, their male friend was supposed to stay the night at Emily's house. But Emily changed her mind and said she wanted to be alone that night, probably because of the fight she had earlier. When Emily and her friends got to Corfu station at 3:53 a.m., they kept asking her to ride with them in the cab, but she said she didn't want to because she wanted to walk home alone and listen to music, even though her phone's battery was dying. Emily regularly took long walks with her headphones in to calm down. This was something she did whenever she was upset. When asked why, one of her friends said, "When we were mad, sad, or upset, we'd walk around and listen to music. It was the only thing that helped." It was only a 1.8-mile walk home. They were worried about her walking alone, but they felt better because they thought, "We drove by her in the taxi, and the last thing we saw was her still walking on the path." I thought nothing was going to happen. Korsør is a place where almost nothing happens. Helen, Emily's mother, went up to her room that morning to check on her because she knew Emily had choir practice at church that afternoon. To her surprise, Emily wasn't there. Helen called her daughter right away, but the phone didn't ring, and Helen didn't read any texts. She was scared, so Helen called Sarah, one of Emily's friends who had been out with her that night. Sarah's news that Emily was going to walk home by herself made Helen's heart sink, and she got chills down her spine. She said she thought right away that her daughter had been hurt badly. Emily had gone to Copenhagen by herself once and didn't talk to anyone for a while. She needed time alone to clear her mind, especially when she was mad like she was after the fight with the boy. Helen thought Emily might have gone to church early, but when she called St. Paul's Church, they said Emily hadn't shown up. She was the type to always keep her promises, so this was not like her. The family called the police at 11:49 a.m. and put in a report about the missing person. The neighborhood acted quickly after the warning went off. Volunteers from the town worked with the cops to look for Emily all over the area. They looked everywhere for her but couldn't find her. The cops talked to Emily's friends and anyone who saw what happened at the train station that night. Two young guys who were on the train with Emily remembered seeing her. One knew her by the way she looked. One of the men stopped by a bush to pour some water after they all got off the train. Emily walked by while she was standing there and looked down at her phone. She was on her phone, one of them said. Soon after, a car picked up the two guys, and the last thing they saw was Emily walking towards Stobel's Vage. This matched what Emily's friends told the cops. Her best friend said that the last time they saw her, she was playing with her headset and then walking away. "I don't know what happened to her," she thought back. Emily kept texting her friends until 4:03 a.m., when her phone's power died. After that, her phone stopped sending signals. The path Emily took to get home wasn't watched by any cameras. She had gone to Corsair on a lonely gravel road that led away from the station. The road goes through some hills and ends at a tunnel on the other side of the highway. There is a care home on the other side with a security camera facing the road. Dennis, the retirement home's heating engineer, told the local news that the camera was on and recording the road on July 10th, 2016, but Emily was not seen on the video. This made me think of something scary. Emily would never get past the tunnel if she followed the way her friends had told her to. Even though people were getting more worried, volunteers and the local cops kept looking for Emily but couldn't find her. When Emily went missing, people all over Denmark were scared. Parents started to pick up their kids right after trips or pay for cabs for them to make sure they got home safely. After reports of young men approaching girls in the area, a local group called the Night Ravens began riding bicycles to watch the area near the train stop. The cops got several tips that led them to look into 3 suspects. One man, a 67-year-old man, had his house checked 5 times, and the other was a 33-year-old truck driver. Neither found anything. Folks living next door to Emily became wary of Finn Peterson, 67, after hearing strange noises coming from the house. The cops searched his house twice but couldn't find anything that would connect him to Emily's disappearance. In the end, he was thrown out as a suspect. The story then turned to Emil, a 33-year-old truck driver from Corsair. He was caught on August 30th after an old friend told police that he seemed oddly interested in Emily's case. The police checked Emil's house, took his electronics, and looked into an excavation site close to his home, but they didn't find anything. Due to his job as a truck driver and past criminal behavior involving a child, Emil had been all over the country, which made him a good suspect. The police were sure they had found the criminal and arrested and charged Emil, but he insisted he was not guilty. He said the cops were going after him unfairly and hadn't even checked his alibi. When police finally looked at the GPS data from his truck, they saw that he was not in the country when Emily went missing. Emil was eventually freed, but not before the experience caused him and his family a lot of stress. After 5 months of searching and investigating, all 3 suspects were finally found not guilty because there was no more proof linking them to the crime. Emily's family was heartbroken. As leads ran out and people got more angry, the pressure on the cops to solve the case grew. Because of this, the police came up with 3 possible explanations. First, Emily had chosen to leave and start a new life somewhere else. Second, she had been in a car accident. And third, she had been the victim of a violent crime. As hope faded, a number was set up so witnesses could call and give any information without giving their names. Emily's family also offered a prize of 200,000 kroner for information about where she was. The Corsair train stop and the areas around it were searched by police more than once, but they found nothing. Also, they looked through more than 50,000 cell phone records from the night Emily went missing. It's not clear if this led to any tips, but the search didn't skimp on anything. Everything was used to try to find her, including police dogs, drones, and dive teams. Investigators even told Interpol about their findings, which led to the idea that Emily may have been raped and taken to Germany across the border. Denmark's media went crazy over the case, and large-scale searches were set up all over the town. Amateurs searched forests, lakes, and the coast in what was the biggest search by amateurs in Denmark's history. A lot of people joined the search for Emily. At first, some people thought Emily might have hurt herself on her way home because she would have had to cross a river. But after a lot of searching in and around Corsair, nothing was found. During these searches, some things were found that looked like Emily's, like a bag and a torn shirt. However, they were not connected. In order to get leads, posters with Emily's face were put up in possible places, such as Copenhagen. It became more and more clear over the summer that there was dirty play involved. Emily hadn't run away or changed her name, and there was no reason for her to have done either. She didn't have a reason, and there was no sign that she was leaving to start a new life somewhere else. It began to sink in that her sad fate was really happening. For months, there was news of sightings or new leads, but nothing ever worked out. The case went away until the night before Christmas Eve, 2016. What happened next would again send shockwaves through Denmark, as if it were fate or Emily herself being fair. On Christmas Eve 2016, someone walking their dog in the area came across a horrible scene that ended the month-long search for Emily Meng. Someone found a young girl's body in a small lake near Ramash Borup, which is 60 kilometers from Korsor Station, which is where Emily was last seen. This remote area, which was full of holes, streams, and water, was a long way from where people had been looking. The body was badly decayed from being outside for months, but there were still signs that connected it to Emily. On the body, police found jewelry and a watch that looked like the ones Emily had worn the night she went missing. In the area, a bag from the NTO supermarket company was found. It had things in it that made the link to Emily even stronger. A pair of jeans with a hole thought to be hers, lip balm that friends remembered her using a lot, and a headset that matched what she said the night she disappeared. Soon, the terrible news was confirmed. It was Emily Meng. A torchlight gathering was held by thousands of people to remember an innocent girl who had touched the hearts of everyone in the community and was known as kind and gentle. Emily's loss would be felt for a long time. It was thought by the police that Emily had been killed soon after she went missing in July and then dumped in this remote area, 40 miles from her home. As you'll see later in the story, there was no way to know for sure at the time. But Emily might have been still alive the day she was taken, and she could have been saved if the police had looked into all of their choices sooner. But this is just a guess. One thing is certain, what she really went through was worse than anyone thought, even at the time. Christina Jacobson, a forensic pathologist, was called to the scene to do an autopsy. The body had been in the water for at least 3 months before it was found. While Jacobson's team was doing the autopsy, they saw something strange. Tape was loosely wrapped around the face and neck of the body. The tape had been over Emily's mouth, but it had slipped over time. This was seen when they carefully took off her hair. Even with this finding, the investigation did not reveal any broken bones in her neck or other obvious injuries on the outside. The cause of death could not be found at the scene of the crime, but Jacobson thought the person may have died of suffocation, possibly because of a blockage in their mouth caused by pressure from the inside or the outside. One of Emily's legs had come off the body, but this was thought to be because animals had been eating her body parts for months. Unfortunately, being out in the elements for a long time made the study harder. The longer it takes to find a body, the more proof is lost. As it turned out, that would come back to haunt the cops as they tried to break the case. A small private service for Emily Meng took place at St. Paul's Church in Korsor on a cold day. 6 months earlier, the young girl had just walked home listening to music, not knowing that it would be her last trip. Only her closest friends and family were there to say goodbye. As of June 2017, 6 months after Emily Meng's body was found, the South Zealand and Lolland Falster police shared the main results of their technical study of surveillance footage from Korsor Station. At about 4:07 a.m., the video, which was grainy and of poor quality, caught a dim picture of a passenger car driving around the station's parking lot. On the morning of July 10, 2016, Emily didn't show up. Experts helped them look at the video for months and come to the conclusion that the car was probably a Hyundai i30 made between 2011 and 2016. Even though the lead looked good, the cops were still under a lot of pressure. In connection with the case, they had talked to about 650 people, made almost 2,000 reports, and compared data from about 400,000 vehicles and phones. It was still not possible for them to name Emily's killer. The first sign of a possible breakthrough came on June 28, 2018. The truck driver Emil was a prime suspect at first, but he was freed because he had an alibi. He was later caught again, this time for a child who was only 9 years old. Emil was a main suspect in Emily's case, so when he was arrested, the police decided to look into his participation again. Another study was done to see if he had anything to do with Emily's disappearance and murder, but he was ruled out again. But he was charged with major crimes against the child, which meant he would not be on the streets again until 2019. it became clear that the police investigation might not have been well done. A Danish program showed how badly the investigation into Emily M's case went, pointing out important mistakes that were made early on. According to the documentary, the police's initial belief that Emily had decided not to go home on purpose slowed down an objective investigation from the start. Because of this assumption, it took a long time to get important evidence, especially surveillance footage from the night she vanished. When they first asked for video, a lot of it had already been erased or blurred, especially from places like Korsør Station. The police's focus on the idea that Emily had left town by train, even though she had never been seen on any of the cams at the station, was one of their biggest mistakes. People who didn't like it said that no more video had been kept after 30 days, which is something that police should have done right away. Important surveillance footage from places like a nursing home and a Shell petrol station nearby was also missing from the probe. In the beginning, if the cops had looked at these cameras, they might have seen what really happened to Emily after she left the station. The video actually showed that there were 4 roads in the area that led away from the train station. 2 of them went towards Borup, which is where Emily's body was later found. Someone may have caught a white van on one of these roads that is thought to be connected to Emily's disappearance. A local restaurant owner named Mac L.R. Muen said that the cops had asked to see his surveillance footage, but it had been erased after 30 days. Businesses in Denmark are only required to keep footage for 30 days by law. This means that police need to move quickly to get the important evidence. In the same way, a company that delivered meat along the E20 motorway had 3 cameras facing the road that could have captured good video of cars going by. It's crazy that the cops never asked for this video, even though it could have helped them track Emily's killer's car or find out where she went. An ex-homicide chief named Bent Sagar Nielsen stressed that gathering surveillance footage is normal practice in these kinds of cases, and that failing to do so early on can damage the investigation in a way that can't be fixed. He told the police they were wrong for not looking into the chance of foul play right away. Later, the cops said in a vague way that they didn't take some investigative steps in the beginning because they thought Emily had already run away. They may have missed the chance to get important proof and possibly catch her killer faster because of this terrible mistake. Helen Meng, Emily's mother, was angry and said that the police might have been able to solve the crime if they had taken the case carefully from the start. Every day she was haunted by the thought that Emily's killer was still out there. The case went cold in the end because of these mistakes and oversights, but it was never forgotten. This lasted until 2023. In the early hours of April 15, 2023, a Kirup girl who was 13 years old was riding her bike to deliver newspapers. Kirup is about 26 kilometers away from Korsør, which is the place where Emily Meng was taken 7 years ago. Early in the afternoon, the girl's mother tried to call her but got no answer. Her mother and stepfather, who lived close and were worried, started driving around looking for her. They were shocked to find her bike abandoned on the side of the road, with her delivery bag thrown away and her phone sticking out in part. The family called the Lolland Falster cops right away because they were scared. The step-uncle said that police came quickly in about 10 to 15 minutes and started a large-scale search. At 11:14 a.m., the girl's phone had just rung off a cell phone tower, and then again after 15 minutes, but after that, no more movement was seen. Because her mother had tried to call her between 11:30 a.m. and noon, investigators thought she had probably been taken. The police used tracking dogs, drones, and various patrols to start a full-scale search. Later that same day, they put out a public appeal asking people in the area to look at any surveillance or dash cam footage for possible proof. A big step forward was made when a resident turned over an important security video. A guy named Philip West, 32, drove his black Hyundai out of his Korsør home at 10:56 a.m. on video footage made at that time. The car was seen again 40 minutes later in the Kirup area by more video. According to the prosecutor's timeline, West was seen moving east before making a sudden U-turn at 11:40 a.m., just minutes before the girl was taken at 11:45 a.m. At exactly 11:44 a.m., a camera nearby caught the girl riding her bike. By April 16, 2023, the next morning, the police had searched West's house as part of their investigation. Around 10:57 a.m., the cops told the public that they were investigating a possible serious crime. The case quickly got the attention of news outlets across the country, and the small town was thrust into the public eye. 4 cops showed up at West's home in Corsair at 2:48 p.m. When they tried the door and got no answer, they broke a glass pane and got ready to break in. As they were about to walk in, Philip West, who was only wearing a t-shirt and knickers, walked in. He was quickly restrained, thrown to the ground, and bound. Officers did a quick search inside the house. They found the girl in a dark room. She was bound and blindfolded, but she was still living. The cops tried to calm her down right away by telling her over and over that they were police and that she was safe. After making sure she was who she said she was, her bonds were taken away. The cops called her mother to tell her that she was safe after 27 hours of being scared. The police held a news conference at 3 p.m. that same afternoon to confirm West's arrest in connection with the girl's disappearance. In her police report, the girl said that she had been hit from behind by a car and that the driver had threatened to kill her if she didn't do what he said. The charge says that she was pushed into West's car trunk and taken to his house. They tied her down, put blindfolds over her eyes, and locked her in a dark room. A forensic search of West's house turned up some troubling information. Investigators found blinds over the patio door and homemade barriers over the windows. They also found food wrappers all over the room where the girl had been held. West's search records showed that while the girl was being held captive for 27 hours, he was obsessed with news stories about her disappearance. He looked up information about the case 28 times on news websites and kept an eye on the Missing Persons Facebook group. The time of his first search was 7 p.m. on the day the girl was taken, just 7 hours after she was taken, 20 minutes before the cops came into his house. He did his last search. Because of the links between the girl's abduction and the unsolved case of Emily Meng, police looked into whether West could have been involved in both. On April 24, 2023, police looked into West's past again and found that he owned a white Hyundai i30 that looked a lot like the car that was seen near Corsair Station the night Emily went missing. West was questioned during the first investigation into Meng's disappearance because his car matched the one seen on surveillance tape, but he wasn't thought to be a suspect at the time. In 2021, his car was sold to a family in Slovakia, but Danish police were able to find it and take it back to Slovakia to look into it further. Digital forensics also showed that West had removed a lot of illegal content from his devices, including a lot of content that involved children. Investigators also found that West had given a DNA sample to the cops in 2022 in response to a request from about 1,400 former Hyundai i30 owners. His DNA did not match any samples taken from Emily M's crime scene, but authorities think that is because it was hard to get a clear sample from her body. West was also linked to Meng's case because his phone records showed that he behaved in a strange way on July 9, 2016, the day before Emily went missing. West had bought a lot of things like chains, bamboo sticks, and a needle for marinade. He turned off his phone on purpose that night, which was a trick he would use again when he kidnapped the girl. A driver said they saw a man near Rock B with his trunk open and trying to lift something heavy. In the same spot, Emily's body was found again after 6 months. It's interesting that West's DNA didn't match the DNA from Emily's crime scene, but in 2023, police found tape at West's house that matched the tape that was used on Emily's face and neck in 2016. The investigation was sparked again when these important details came to light. This made many people think that West may have been involved in both crimes, which left a dark mark on the once peaceful town of Corsair. Philip West's trial began on May 14, 2024. He was a suspect in 3 different crimes. Philip only said he was guilty of one of these charges. In the case of Emily Meng, a forensic scientist said that there was a 1 in a million chance that the DNA on the roll of tape found at Philip West's house belonged to Emily Meng. Also, the break surface of the tape that was found on Emily was the same as the one that was found in West's house. West's defense said that he had only picked up the tape while taking a smoke break and driving around the area where Emily's body was found. They said this raised enough logical doubt to call the case into question. What did Emily do while she was being taken away? Our story now shifts to another girl who lived and asked to stay anonymous in order to try to answer that question. A girl from Corsair's gymnasium boarding school, who was 15 years old at the time, went for a walk in November 2022, just 6 months before she was taken away in 2023. She was talking to her mom on the phone when she was struck from behind. That was her first thought, but when she felt the cold steel of a knife and a hand pressing hard against her, she knew it wasn't a joke. She was hit on the ground, and the call with her mom finished quickly. She tried to scream for help on her phone, but the attacker kicked it away and kept telling her to be quiet while she lay on the ground. The phone kept ringing. It was her dad calling, probably scared about the quick loss of service. She told her attacker, "My mom knows where I am," to scare him, but it didn't work. He put strips around her hands and began to drag her across the pitch. She was afraid of being raped or killed. He kept telling her he wasn't going to kill her, but she didn't believe him for a second. She couldn't stop thinking about how sad things were. She really tried to grab the knife, but he pulled it away from her. She noticed that he wasn't wearing gloves. He had touched everything with his naked hands. She held on to the thought that if nothing else, that would help them find her. When she saw that no one was nearby to help her, she stopped screaming. She thought she had no choice but to go along with what was going on. But all of a sudden, he stopped. To count to 100, he told her. She did what she was told, counting out loud while trying hard to hear his steps. Her heart was pounding, and she was sure this was some kind of crazy game. After about 20 seconds, she took a chance and looked back. He was already a long way away. She jumped at the chance and ran back to school, where her parents and the cops were waiting. DNA was taken from the scene, and what happened to her left a deep scar. After that, she needed other people to help her feel safe and couldn't be by herself. She was sure that the phone call that scared off the attacker was the only reason she was able to stay alive. When Philip West was caught in 2023, the DNA matched. It was recorded that West's phone was close to the attack in Sorrow at 5:52 p.m., in time with the attack that happened between 6:12 and 6:33 p.m. and 6:18 p.m. Let us go back to Emily Meng. There was more proof from the crime scene that linked West to Emily Meng. The Geogenic Institute's S.K. Willers and his team found male DNA in Emily's genes. Their high-tech ways told them that the DNA probably belonged to Philip West or a close family member like his grandfather, father, son, or brother. But this proof was called into question. The Geogenic Institute wasn't authorized to do DNA tests on criminal cases. Their skills were usually used for archaeological finds, not current investigations. It was the first time their methods were used in a case with so much public interest. Experts in forensic medicine from the Institute of Forensic Medicine said that the data only hinted at a connection to West and that they couldn't say for sure. Someone who said they saw a white car the morning Emily Meng went missing was called by the prosecutor. A person who saw the incident remembers that the man's license plate had the letter B in it. West also had a light-colored Hyundai i30 that summer, and its license plate started with the letter B. The lawyer also talked about how hard it was to get DNA from the car in 2022, but the defense raised questions by saying that the witness only talked about a closed sedan, while West's car was a hatchback with a fully open tailboard. The timetable also didn't quite make sense. The witness said they drove by the area between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m., but West had used his payment card to buy petrol in Schlegels at 8:11 a.m., 45 kilometers away. That trip would normally take 33 minutes, which would leave West with only 8 minutes to throw Emily's body into the lake. Who is Philip West, then? Philip Patrick West, who went by the name Corsor Mandan, was born on March 30th, 1991. He worked as a marketing executive for a company in Sorrow. Things were going well for him at work. He owned a car and a separate house in the small town of Struer in Zeeland. From what his friends, who he had lived with at one point, say, he was a loner who never had a girlfriend but could talk to people, especially women, after drinking. He tried not to look people in the eye, but he still went out with friends. They said Philip West was a good friend and thought he wasn't because of how he looked and the fact that he didn't talk about it. His friends were shocked when they heard that he had been arrested for getting a 13-year-old girl. The prosecution said that Philip West privately had very violent and cruel thoughts about young girls. His mental evaluation, which was shown in court on June 14th, said that he is usually gifted but has antisocial personality traits, though not as much as a psychopath. The prosecution said he had sadistic wants since he was a teenager and is, quote, severely perverted. The evaluation also said he is a major threat to other people's lives, bodies, and health. Official records also show that on June 14th, a lot of extremely sexy videos and pictures of women being choked and hung were discovered on Philip Patrick West's computer. These pictures were put into groups like death porn, necrophilia, drowning, and hanging. Most of the pictures showed women's deaths, so the groups weren't very useful. They also found pictures, addresses, and directions to the houses of real young women. The court also learned that West had written 2 70-page stories about girls in the Sorrow area who were praised for their freedom but are also humiliated and abused badly. In June 2024, the judge found Philip West guilty of trying to rape Emily Meng and keep her in jail for a long time, but not of actually raping her or keeping her in jail for a long time because it could not be proven that these things happened. He was punished for the attempt, though, because he did mean to do it. West was also found guilty of putting the 13-year-old girl in jail for a long time, trying to kill her and sexually assaulting her several times. He was also found guilty of attacking a 15-year-old high school student in Korsor. Finally, he was found guilty of killing Emily Meng and taking the other 2 girls hostage. The court made it clear that the murder and attempted murder were done for sexual reasons on people younger than 18 years old. The judge in charge said that Court Chairman Bo RM also said that the crimes were especially careless and were planned. Philip West has been told to pay more than 574,000 Danish kroner, which is about $86,000, in reparations to the victims and their families. Emily Meng's mother got 140,000 Danish kroner, which is about $20,000, and each of her 2 brothers got 50,000 Danish kroner, which is about $7,500. The girl, 13, got 295,000 Danish kroner, which is $45,000. The schoolgirl from Sorø, 15, is owed 40,000 Danish kroner, which is $6,000. Philip West was given a life term on June 28th for the crimes he committed. His lawyer told the judge that he would be appealing the sentence right away in hopes of getting him released or the sentence reduced. The High Court will look over this case, but the date hasn't been set yet. In the end, though, we must remember the people who were hurt by this monster, this dog dressed as a sheep. Everyone who knew Emily Meng said she was a good person. This makes us wonder why so many bad things happen to good people. On the other hand, Philip West is a slave to his own dark wants, and it's likely that his lawyer will be able to get his sentence shortened. There's been a lot of talk about Helen, Emily's mother, being unhappy with the police work, especially early in the morning. But we need to remember that Philip West is eventually to blame for everything. Thank you for watching this heartbreaking true crime case. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.